Check, check, check.
What up, everybody? Welcome to Strong New York. Let's go! Let's go, let's go, let's go! I am so honored and fired up to be here hosting this event with my good friend Jamie. What up, Jamie?
Woo! What's up, guys? I'm super excited to be here. It's going to be a fantastic day.
So New York City is my hometown. I grew up here in Manhattan in the Big Apple. And if there's anything that I know about New York to be true, is that we're fucking strong. This is a strong fucking city. There's no doubt about it. I opened up a bunch of restaurants here in New York City starting in 2010. And when I would open up a restaurant, with the staff, we would have an orientation. And every single orientation, I would sit in front of the staff, and everybody would be uncomfortable. Nobody knew each other, kind of like this room right now. Nobody really knows each other. You guys are all sitting here. You're looking at me. You have no idea who I am or who the person sitting to your right, your left is. I want to change that. I want to shake it up a little bit. I want everybody to like just literally do something that I'm going to ask you to do, just to break the ice, just to let it all out. When was the last time you screamed at the top of your lungs?
Ooh. Counting kids?
Literally?
Your kids or not?
You said yesterday for sure. I'm talking about at the top of your lungs. So the reason why I started doing this with the restaurants was because about 15, 20 years ago, I was driving from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and I was like going through a really hard time in my life, and I needed something. I was like in a 5-hour drive. I was fucking bored, and halfway through, I said, you know what, I'm just going to scream. I'm just going to scream in the car as loud as I can, because I can't remember the last time I did that. And it felt so good. It felt so good, and I kept on doing it. I was doing it for, I don't know, maybe about a half an hour. By the time I got to San Francisco, I had completely lost my voice. That's how good it felt. And I said, you know, this is a gift. This is a gift, and it's a fun way to break the ice with people. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do to just kick off this event. I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. Just stand up. You can sit, because you've got a thing.
Or not. He's up. Strong.
There it is.
Strong.
All right. So on the count of 3, I'm going to ask everybody to actually scream at the top of your lungs. Like you actually don't care. Like you actually want to win an award for the fucking loudest scream in all of New York. All right? This is how we're going to kick off this thing. And then I'm going to let you guys sit down, and you're going to look to the person on your right, and you're going to look to the person on your left, and you're going to hug. You're going to hug, and then we're going to get this thing going. All right? That's what we're going to do.
All right.
I'm asking you to do it. And so on the count of 3, I'm obviously going to cover my mic because I'm going to join you, and Jamie's going to join you.
I'm going to join too.
We're going to scream at the top of our lungs, and we're going to get it all on tape recorded. And that is how Strong New York is going to show how strong we really fucking are.
Let's do it.
All right? 1, 2, 3. All right. That's what I'm fucking talking about. Now, huh?
Now I got a hug.
What?
Now we got a hug.
Now we got a hug. Let's hug. Hug. All right. We're making friends.
Awesome.
We're making friends. We're making friends. Yeah, that's what I'm fucking talking about. All right. You guys are amazing.
Woo-hoo.
Jamie wants to talk to you about some stuff before we get going with Adam Bornstein. Jamie, let her rip.
You guys are in for an absolutely epic day. To Mike's very big personality, I have a little bit more of a grounded one, so I'm going to encourage you to really dig deep. Maybe you'll cry a little, maybe you'll be inspired, maybe you'll move, but just take a moment. I joined the Strong community when it was about 10 people strong, 7 years ago with Kenny, and have never left it. And what I will say is you'll meet a million amazing people and vendors, but it is the relationships that you make and the connections that you make here in the community of Strong that are life-changing. So lean into that, lean into who you hear up on stage. You're going to hear some pretty awesome people come up here. Most of them are sitting with you here today. So scream it out, hug it out, cry it out. Let's do it.
Love it. All right. Without further ado, I am very excited to announce a friend and a bit of a mentor, a guy who I work with pretty regularly at my company, Creatures of Habit. His name is Adam Bornstein. He is the voice of nutrition in the world of wellness. He has been doing this for a very long time. He is a New York Times bestselling author. He is literally best friends with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's not a joke. The guy is a legend, and he is going to talk about cracking the code to nutrition. He's going to simplify for us so that we can all take away some really, really chewable content, really, really chewable wisdom on nutrition. The guy's been doing it for a very long time. Without further ado, y'all, let's give Adam Bornstein a round of applause. Let's go, Adam! Woohoo!
All right, I have allegedly 23 minutes to make sense of nutrition, which, as I was joking last night, is pretty much the hardest thing to do. But if there's one thing that I want all of you to take away from this talk, I'm just going to give it away right now, because nutrition is hard, sometimes seemingly impossible for most people. And what this ends up doing to people is they internalize the failure, they internalize the struggle, and they spend so much time fighting about and stressing over what is the best plan, what is the one way to go about this, what is the one diet plan, that people literally spend all of their time on the internet fighting about this. And if there's anything you take away, it's to stop looking for that one thing. Stop fighting about it, stop arguing about it, stop getting mad at the person who isn't doing the thing that you're doing, because it doesn't fucking matter. And that's going to make a lot more sense in a moment when I tell you it really doesn't matter, right? There are things that are worth fighting about. There are things that are not worth fighting about. I went on a walk this morning and kind of had like a crisis of how I want to start this thing, because for me, for the last several months, I've been consumed by the fact that I lost my father almost 4 months ago to the day. My dad took great care of himself. He had a very, very healthy diet. My dad got brain cancer. Gets brain cancer. He's told he has 6 to 12 months to live. You get told you have 6 to 12 months to live, everyone starts coming out of the woodworks with advice and with pity, and people told him all the different things that he should or shouldn't eat. Right? My dad ended up making it 3 years. I'm not going to tell you the one food that you can eat to prevent or fight off cancer, because it doesn't exist. I'm not going to tell you the one diet that's going to make you lose fat or build muscle, because it doesn't exist. I will tell you, which I saw with my own father, the thing that you can do to help figure out what will work for you, so that the idea of winning this game, the idea of cracking this code, is no longer so complicated. And I now have 19 minutes to do that, so buckle up. You know, when you deal with this for as long as I have, 20 plus years of trying to help people eat healthier, you start to become consumed by the fact that this is so hard for people. You know, by a show of hands, how many of you at some point in your life have tried a diet or done something to improve your nutrition, counting macros and calories? This all counts. Okay, so like 95% of the people are telling the truth and 5% are totally lying. Everyone here has tried to do something to eat better. And from that, how many of you, when you've done this, have not necessarily seen the results in the long term that you thought that you would? Now, like, way more of you are lying. The majority of people struggle with nutrition at some point. It doesn't mean that you don't know what to do, right? Because how many of you, if I put a plate of donuts in front of you or a plate of vegetables, wouldn't know which is healthier? Right? We know what is healthy. We understand what we're supposed to eat, but then executing on that, knowing what we're supposed to do and doing it repeatedly, is the struggle. So the question is, well, how do we overcome that? If we know what is good to eat, but we struggle to eat it, or we struggle to eat in a way that delivers the results that we want, where's the gap? Right? People say that success leaves clues. So I've spent the last 10 years just trying to observe some of the healthiest people. And this can even be more frustrating, right? If success leaves clues, I'm going to give you an idea of what my day-to-day is like. You know, Michael was kind enough to say I'm best friends with Arnold. I wouldn't go that far, but I have worked with Arnold for 12 years. If you talk with Arnold about his diet, not just today, but back when he was, you know, what many consider the greatest bodybuilder, Here's a guy who wouldn't drink milk because milk is for babies. He wouldn't eat before he trains. He has a cup of coffee before he goes to the gym. And the guy loves sugar. A week before a bodybuilding competition, he would go to the House of Pies with Franco Columbo and eat an entire pie. Makes no sense. Had the pleasure of working with LeBron James for several years. LeBron James loves drinking milk and protein shakes before and after. 2 bananas each time, everyone, right? And then he goes ahead and tries to avoid all added sugars, and he loves wine. You go ahead and you deal with someone, Cindy Crawford worked with, 80% good, 80% of the time, big breakfast, small meals and snacks the rest of the day. George St. Pierre doesn't eat breakfast, intermittent fasting, 2 meals per day. If the idea that success leaves clues is true, right, following the habits and routines of other people can oftentimes make you feel absolutely clueless because it's all different. So then what do? You turn to the science. The science, studies show. I'm very evidence-based, but everyone loves to lean on the science and cherry pick what works for them, right? You got the people saying, you got to go low carb, you got to go low fat, all plant-based, be carnivore. It's enough to absolutely make your head spin. But if you cut through and don't cherry pick, what you find is that all of those plans can actually work. There's a common ground that, yes, you want to make sure you get enough protein in your diet. Yes, you want to make sure that you eat enough fiber. Yes, you want to make sure that you limit ultra-processed, not all processed food. Olive oil is processed, you guys, not all processed foods. Ultra-processed foods, the things with added amounts of salt, sugar, fat to make them hyper-palatable. But when you look at it, and if you just look at what gets the results, the adherence is what matters. You can go on a low-fat plan, you can go on a low-carb plan, you can go plant-based, you can do any of this. Whatever you stick to for the longest period of time, it's what's going to deliver the results. So the question becomes, well, how? How do I go ahead and stick to it? And right now what people will do is we try and leverage this technology that we have, right? Well, maybe we just need to figure out what works for us on a personalized level, on a genetic level. Let's use technology to figure out what is in our blood that we are going to respond best to. So you get people say you should diet based on your blood type. It's totally bullshit. You should diet based on your DNA. We've got no evidence for that. But then there are some people who actually we know are carb responders or fat responders. We respond better to a higher carb or a higher fat diet. Now, if that knowledge means you are more adherent and it helps you stick to your diet, that helps you. But an amazing study that was well thought out came out about 2 months ago that did just this. They looked at 10 different genetic factors to determine whether someone was a carb responder or a fat responder. And then they put these people on a high carb or a high fat diet, and then they put them on the inverse, right? They took the carb responders and put them on a high fat diet. Right? They took the fat responders and put them on a high carb diet, and they saw what happened in all of this. You know what the difference in fat loss was between all 4 groups? 0. So maybe it's not that, right? The adherence still matter, but it doesn't necessarily what it means on a genetic level. So what is it? And what it is how we go about and approach diets in the first place. Because dieting, nutrition, fitness, anything that you do, it is an active behavior. And when we look at nutrition, we get so bogged down in the science, we get so married to an idea where in 20 minutes I can't tell you the one diet that will work with you because so many different diets will work. What I can do is help you understand why so many diets don't work in the long term. Because most times we start in one of 2 directions. You either A, start by focusing on the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds. Or you start by focusing on the process. I want to follow a low-carb diet. I want to kick out all gluten. I need to avoid dairy, right? It's all these super restrictive plans. But that's not the foundation of change. These things can help you along the way. The foundation of change is actually your identity, what you think about yourself and what you think about in these moments, because we like to treat diets as if they're some piece of IKEA furniture, right? You get the pieces, you get the instructions, and then well, it never ends up looking perfect with me, but it's supposed to be easy to put together. I'm just not a handy individual. But diets don't work that way because life is too variable. We have too many different things that can completely get in the way and cause you to screw up. And the moment that you screw up, it causes you to spiral, right? They call it a case of the fuck-its. How often do people go ahead, and especially this time of year, right? What's so interesting is the average person gains about 1 to 3 pounds per year on average after the age of 30, and the average person gains about 1 to 3 pounds in November and December. Right? You take 10 months of work and you almost completely extinguish it with 2 months of, well, I went to that holiday party, I drank everything at the bar, I ate all the food that they had, and I'll see you in January with a new resolution, right? These things spiral, and so much of it is based on the fact that people don't focus on their self-identity and their self-perception. And the reason I bring this up, and the reason I brought up my father, is that most people think that this is ridiculous because the diet game, the nutrition game, is one where people want to sell the quickest result possible, even if that means you end up worse off later. It's a giant facade. It's all a smokescreen, right? If you truly want to change for the long term, you have to understand that you have to be able to build habits that will change you for the better. In order to build habits that will change you for the better, you have to change your mindset in terms of who you think you are. Most people go about their lives thinking that they are not healthy, they cannot change, they will screw this up, they carry stress and anxiety. The average person stresses 8 to 10 times every time they have a meal. Right? You think, am I eating the right things? Am I eating enough? How many meals per day should I be eating? All of these stressors add up. Right? And one of the worst things that you can do is that if what you think of yourself is not aligned with the behaviors that you do, so you're following the diet plan, but you don't think it's going to work, you're eating better, but you don't actually think you can be healthy, at some point, that is known as cognitive dissonance, that will break you. So when you have the hard day at work or you're in an environment when you're around these foods, you A, have more trouble being consistent with that behavior, and B, you are more prone to then catastrophize. The mistakes that people think that they make, eating the sugar, breaking the plan, is not the actual mistake. The mistake is the compensatory behavior that people then do where they punish themselves for something that is pretty much benign. You do not have to be perfect with your nutrition to be healthy. You just have to be consistent with it. And shifting that begins with this shift in self-perception, because behavioral change is just this very, very simple behavioral loop where if you want to be more consistent with the things that you do, you first have to change your self-perception. And that's with small wins, right? You do small things that might not necessarily move the scale, but they prove to you that you care about this. It's doing the workout and following it with something that is actually good for you rather than something that isn't benefiting you. It might not move the scale, but evidence builds confidence. So the idea that you go ahead and can see that you can do these positive things will change your own self-perception, regardless of the diet plan. We'll get to the diet plan stuff in a moment. Regardless of that, you need to know that you can do the behaviors. So changing your self-identity, changing your self-perception is so much more important than trying to win on the scale, because then when you have that stable foundation of who you are, when you find yourself in a difficult situation, when you find yourself in a stressful situation, and you will, this is life, you all know it, you are less likely to be blown around. The best analogy I think I've read about this was, one time I read about Seth Godin, and he was talking about sailors. And he said, beginner sailors, they try and read the wind, right? Because the wind gives you the power to go in the right direction. The expert sailors, though, they read the current, because the current is stable and predictable. This is nutrition. The wind are all the different diet plans that you switch to, dozens of times. The current is who you are and how you react in situations, so that any time you're put in a difficult situation, the diet, the exercise, the habits and routines you want to build don't completely fall apart. Once you change this self-perception, once you build this self-identity, this is where the fun starts. One, the next step is the thing that no one tells you to do. I want you to plan for your failure. When people start these plans, they project what it's going to look like, and that's good. You want to be positive, not negative, but there is a framework known as inversion. Inversion is used oftentimes in business, where you flip things upside down. You look at the end, and you ask yourself, how is this going to go wrong? Because, right, if you remember at the beginning, so many of you, we've all tried diets, we've all failed on diets, and yet we try a different diet and expect a different outcome, thinking that it's the foods that are the issue, and it's really the behaviors that will deliver them. Because remember, different diets can all deliver the same result. Adherence is the issue. So with inversion, the thing that you want to do is you want to think about all the different ways you will fall off the plan. What are the foods that you're going to crave? What are the lifestyle factors that is going to make it difficult to stick with this? When are you going to feel most stressed? What are the type of foods that you're going to miss most on the plan? And then you build a plan around these known failures, right? Because it is very, very hard to fail if you can anticipate where you are most likely to slip up. This is just better preparation. And if you have built a better mindset and changed your self-conception, when the hard stuff hits, you'll either be able to lean on these better habits, or if you slip up, you won't catastrophize, you won't beat yourself up, but you can get right back on track, right? It's so funny to me that if you would tell someone that they would work out once per week and have like the best workout ever, but wouldn't train any other time, no one would expect them to be fit. But if we have 1 or 2 or 3 bad meals, we somehow think that that outdoes the other 18 to 25 meals you might have over the rest of the week. It makes absolutely no sense, but it's what we do. Or we think that we need to start with these super complex plans. We have created this idea that being healthy needs to be painful, needs to be uncomfortable, needs to create this discomfort. Whereas in any other progression in life, it makes no sense. If you want to teach someone to swim, right, you don't throw them in the deep end and watch them drown, right? You start them out to make sure that they don't need to be fearful of the water. You get them used, they teach them how to tread water, and then you teach them how to swim. The idea is if you can progress yourself by anticipating the failures, if you can progress yourself by understanding where you're likely to slip up, you start to find the things that serve you, and you start to find the things that don't. And the more that you can identify the things that you serve you, the more that you can build upon that, you start to abandon the things that no longer feel what you thought was good but was actually bad for you. The funny thing about restriction is the more that you restrict, the more you come to crave. And I love referencing this one study that was in the journal Obesity where they told people they couldn't have candy and dessert for one day, right? You had one job, don't do this. And what happened was people increased their caloric consumption by 133%, right? Because it was the idea that they couldn't have it that made them want more, and they didn't eat that one thing, so they ate more of something else. Or the idea that when you cut out all of these foods, if you fundamentally think you can't have it, all you're going to be doing is thinking about wanting it, as opposed to knowing that there is a place to have some of these things that you enjoy, knowing there is a place to have these things. And as you just know you have that allotment, if you know that screwing up is actually part of the plan, it takes away a lot of that edge, takes a lot of that stress, that anxiety, that discomfort that pushes us towards the foods and the things that we want to, avoid most. And at some point you realize you don't need them anymore. A lot of those things are crutches that we have just developed bad habits around. So if you truly want to go about and crack that nutrition code, the goal is more about changing your mindset. The goal is more about thinking about how you approach things. The goal is about giving yourself more flexibility in order to make those mistakes, figure out what works for you, and then you can pick however many meals you want per day, right? Again, they've compared. You can have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of them can work. You can be more plant-based. You can eat red meat. You can make those choices. The goal is to be as informed. I'm not here to tell you what to eat because that's just going to piss you off. I'm here to tell you how you can go ahead and make those behavioral changes so that you can choose what serves you well. You can try to become as informed as possible, and then you can try and lean more on the good behaviors, lean less on the behaviors that won't serve you as well. And that, over time, is what at some point will make you feel like you don't need a cheat code anymore. Because when you are in control and when you are confident, that's when you truly won the game. That's it, guys.